G'day, I'm Scotty Tucker. In this video I wanted to talk about what to do if you've got an unusual shaped dam. How do you aerate an unusually shaped dam? In a perfect world, you'd have a circular dam or a square dam that's deepest in the middle. That's a very easy shape to aerate. But what happens when you've got long skinny dams, or you've got islands, or multiple dams side by side with channels in between? There's all sorts of different odd shaped dams that I've seen throughout the years. Good news is that it is possible to aerate essentially most dams. What I'd suggest as a starting point is that you first find someone to work with who's experienced in aerating unusually shaped dams, because what can happen is that you go to your local pump shop, irrigation shop, and yeah, we do aerators, and they'll just tell you to drop a surface aerator straight in the middle of the dam because their handbook that they read, or the manufacturer overseas said, oh, you've got a 4-acre dam, so here's your aerator for a 4-acre dam. In practice, it doesn't translate like that, because what can happen with unusually shaped dams, if it's got islands, for example, what can happen is that no matter what type of aeration you use, whether it's from the bottom up or from the top down, an island is going to stop water movement from one side of the island to the other. So you would need to have an aerator on either side of an island. If it's long and skinny, the fact that the banks are on either side are going to limit the water movement, again, regardless of whether it's coming from the top to the bottom. The depth is quite important. You know, if it's a deeper dam, you've got to do it in a different way than if it was a shallower dam. So there's a lot that goes into recommending and designing a suitable system for your dam. So yeah, make sure you work with someone that knows what they're doing. Typically, I'd say subsurface aerators, they're a bit more flexible, or offer an easier way of aerating more unusual shaped dams, because in a more unusually shaped dam you've typically got more locations of aerators dotted around the dam. So subsurface aerators give you a greater ability to put aerators in multiple locations at a better cost than, say, a surface aerator. Let's say you needed 6 locations in a dam, and you did that with a subsurface system, you're probably going to be talking about ballpark 1.5 horsepowers worth of motor to achieve that. Whereas if you had 5 or 6 locations with surface aerators, you're going to be up around the 4 to 6 horsepower worth of equipment, because you have to have multiple motors in multiple places. Also quite common to do a combination of the two, where you might have a surface aerator in a location where you want that aesthetic aspect, or you want greater aeration, more intensive aeration in certain areas, and then you might do the rest of the dam with subsurface aerators. So there's different ways and means of doing it. If you've got really shallow water, you might introduce, say, nanobubble technology, because that way you're just filling up the bucket with nanobubbles rather than circulating. So it's a different way of aerating. So the point being, there are different options and different ways of aerating unusually shaped dams. This one behind us, it's under development in the Grampians here in Victoria. It's going to be used for kayaking and fishing, so they've got islands and it's unusual shapes where you can paddle the boats around. So for this one, we went with subsurface. We did 2 separate locations, because from a power point of view, having 2 locations saved a lot of cost on the hose runs. When you start doing really long hose runs with weighted hose, it gets quite expensive. So it can actually be cheaper to do what we've done now, instead of having one large system at one location and having to run really long lengths of hoses. What we did is had 2 separate locations so that we could shorten the overall length of hose. Also helps just with the technical ability to do an aeration system, because each system's got a maximum distance of hose, where if you go too far you put too much pressure on the pump and you burn the pump out prematurely. Another reason why you want to be working with people that understand the pressure ratings and how these types of pumps work. So I guess the point is, don't be put off or worried that you've got an unusual shaped dam. You can still aerate it, and you can get the water quality benefit that aeration allows. If you're in the position of doing a new dam, maybe don't do an unusually shaped dam, because although it can be done, it's going to be a bit more expensive than a more simple design dam. So yeah, if you've got an unusually shaped dam, don't be put off by it. You're still going to be able to aerate it and get the water quality benefits that aeration will provide.